So are we supposed to start the podcast?
Ready? Okay. Better.
Okay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? It feels like it's been a year.
I know you went to the Grand Caymans.
You went to Paris and London?
Paris and London. And we were separated for like 8 days.
It was very, very sad. I think I did text you halfway through and was like, I'm embarrassed to tell you that I miss you.
You did. You texted me on like day 4. And it was really sweet.
Aww.
I know. It warmed my cold black heart like you wouldn't believe.
Your cold black heart.
So, Pumps, what have you had it with?
What I've had it with, Jennifer, is universal, and that is personal space invaders.
Oh, yeah.
I don't understand as an adult, particularly if you're married and or have children, how that continues to be a problem. Because my children, if I were in people's faces like that, would tell me, back the fuck up. Like, get back. You're too close. But I have people that, like, as I start moving back.
Hang on. I'm kind of confused. Are you talking about your children invading your personal space?
No, I'm saying, like, as somebody that has a child, if I were a personal space invader, they would chew my ass. I mean, there's one in particular that I'm thinking of that, I mean, I have backed up, and she keeps coming and she keeps coming. And I'm like backed up against the wall.
Right.
And I just want to throw my hands up and be like, I surrender. Like, get out of my face.
No, it's bad.
I just don't understand how people cannot realize they're personal space invaders, especially if the person you're talking to keeps backing up. I mean, subtly, but you're backed up and then all of a sudden I'm up against a wall. And I mean, we could French kiss. We're so close. It drives me crazy. And in fact, when I see this person, I like try to hide.
No, that's what happens. But it's almost like, it's like for the personal space invader, it's like the self-fulfilling prophecy that they have that nobody wants to be around them. And then they start inching closer, and then they make it come true. You know what I mean? Because it's
they manifest it.
They manifest it because I have people that are around me from time to time in business that are total personal space invaders. And here's the biggest offender of all. Personal space invader plus chronic halitosis.
Oh, that is the worst.
These people
are the worst.
It is so bad. And everybody in the world knows this. And I don't know, again, why isn't somebody close to them telling them, A, you have chronic halitosis.
Chew gum, get a mitt. I'm very good about asking people if we're in close quarters, like if we're in a car and we're traveling and we're talking, like, oh my God, is my breath bad? Just tell me and I'll put a mint in or something.
Right.
So the people with the chronic halitosis, again, why aren't the people that live with them, their nearest and dearest, i.e. kids, husbands, wives, telling them?
Maybe they've just given up. Maybe it's like, you know.
Do you think Roman Welch would give up on you if you were in people's faces everywhere he went with your horrible breath? No. And I'm not saying you have horrible breath. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying that I think sometimes some people are so set in their ways that you get to a point where you just throw your hands up in the air and it's like, I can't fix this. I'll give you a prime example. Josh Welch talking about his hair 24/7, 365. I can't make him stop. I've tried I'm like, okay, you got a haircut. Let's move on. When we were in Paris, he got his haircut. We had to hear about it building up to the haircut, after the haircut, and at least 3 to 5 times per day post haircut for the remainder of our vacation. So I have just given up on this.
But wouldn't you think that like if you had bad breath?
Logically, yes, but they're still out there. So I'm offering I
guess it just defies logic.
It defies logic. I agree with
logic.
100% of everything you say. I think these people, the chronic halitosis, personal space invaders, should not be allowed to leave the house. Yet they are.
They're out there.
They're leaving. And you've got some gal backing you up to a wall that's trying to French kiss you. Nobody's telling her to stay at home. So I don't understand. a lot of what goes on with the general public, which
That's
is
true.
why I have become more and more agoraphobic as my life has gone on.
Yes.
But the personal space invaders plus chronic halitosis, and then, like sometimes somebody has like a booger.
I always tell when people have boogers.
You do. You always tell
I always
people.
tell if people's pants are unzipped, they have food in their teeth. Like even if I don't know them, I'm like, hey, girlfriend, food in your teeth. I just think that that's being a good person. The person that lets you run around with lipstick on your teeth or your fly unzipped, that's not a good person.
I agree.
Did I ever tell you one time I was at DHS or juvenile court, which I don't practice in juvenile court very much. And I have no idea what's going on because everybody that's there like works in the building.
Right.
It's a rarity for like a private attorney to be out there.
Okay.
So I'm out there prancing around like, the princess of the legal community. And the judge goes off the bench for a minute and the clerk comes, says, Miss Sullivan, can I see you in the back? And I was like, oh God, I fucked something up. I've done something wrong. Like what is going on? So I go back there and she goes, your fly is unzipped. Which, thank you.
Yeah, that was it.
Thank you.
That was a public service.
Yes.
That was really helpful. So I think the question is, what do we do moving forward? I think what we could make a pact to do, you, me, Kylie, and the listener, is when somebody is personal space invading, is immediately say, stop invading my personal space. And if you have a personal space invader plus chronic halitosis, you can double down on that and say, you need to back up and you need to go scrape your tongue, brush your teeth, rinse with Listerine, visit the dentist, and then circle back with me.
Yes. And then I'll be happy to hear what you have to say.
Exactly. So maybe we just need to be more blunt. Maybe we're not blunt enough.
No, I mean, I would never say, oh my God, you're in my space and your breath is terrible. I just wouldn't.
But you just said that you tell anybody if they have something in their mouth, something in their teeth,
I know,
something.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why I don't tell the personal space invader, like, just take a step back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll give it some thought. But I do want to circle back to something you were talking about. The Josh Welch incessant talking about his haircut.
Uh-huh.
What are the tips that you use to kind of get that conversation out of the everyday mainstream?
I completely ignore it. I mean, he starts talking about his hair and I just completely act like he's not speaking.
Okay.
I don't feed it at all. I just completely ignore it. And he even went as far as to suggest that the haircuts in New York and Paris are so superior to those in Oklahoma City that he's giving strong consideration to flying to New York once every 4 to 6 weeks to get a haircut. To which my 20-year-old son, Dylan, said, Dad, that is the dumbest, most impractical thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I think that I appreciate what Dylan said, but what really should have been said is, you are the biggest fucking entitled brat. Don't ever say that out loud again. Ever. Yeah. Don't ever say it out loud. Never. Well, okay, Kylie, so now we have some tips on the pickleball. When the pickleball conversation, Kylie and I are just going to look at each other. We're just going to act like you're not here.
Do you want to hear what I've had it with?
I would love to hear what you've had it with.
So the entire 8 days that I was in Europe, I paid a lot of attention to the Europeans,
right?
To the Parisians and the Londoners. And there was one thing that I never saw, not one time. And I took the tube, I walked the streets, I did public transportation, I was out amongst the people all the time. I'm a much better traveler than I am day-to-day liver in Oklahoma City. And there was one thing I never noticed, not one time.
I think I know what it is. Can I get to guess? Do I get to guess?
No.
Okay.
An oversized beverage that you do not see. These beverages that you schlep around with
right.
you everywhere you go, they don't have that. You go to a restaurant, and if you happen to drink sugary drinks like a Coke, you get a small bottle and a glass, and there's no free refill. Nobody's schlepping around these big, giant water
Stanley
bottles.
Cups.
And they walk everywhere. They walk 1,000,000 times more than we do. They walk everywhere.
Are you sure no one had a Stanley Cup?
Not one fucking person. I am 100% positive about it. As I started the story, I paid rock solid attention to those around me, and I was looking for it. Nobody walks around with beverages.
Well, that's interesting because when we were in Grand Cayman, I too noticed that nobody served big drinks.
Yeah.
You had to ask for a refill, that kind of thing. But you will be happy to learn that the 4 girlfriends that I went with, we all took our Stanley Cups with us so that we were able to still enjoy our oversized beverages.
So y'all took your beverages down there with you, and then you took them everywhere with you on the trip?
I think I was the only one that took it everywhere with me, but when we would go down to the beach, we all loaded up our Stanleys.
I'm just going to tell you this. It will be a cold fucking day in hell before I ever am caught dead with a Stanley Cup. And it really fucking chaps my hide that you have found a posse that enables this egregious consumption of yours. It is to everybody that went to the Grand Cayman with pumps, go eat a bag of dicks because it's enabling. It is not necessary to drink that much 24/7 nonstop. I've had it.
I know. And as you well know, I take all of my supplies for my tea on all trips.
I'm abundantly aware. Listener, when we travel, we go to Mexico every Thanksgiving together. The minute we check into the hotel room, in our hotel room, this is like a house that we rent and it has a kitchen. She is down there. I mean, just ravaging through the cabinets, finding things to make this tea. And then she has to make the tea and then she refrigerates part of it. It is so disturbing that you cannot even just go in and enjoy the room for a second. Look at the view, look at the swimming pool, kind of look at your bedroom and have a little conversation. It is like this fix, like a crackhead that has walked in the Sahara Desert for 500 miles that just bumped into their crack dealer. That is what it's like. So the fact that you are traveling with others like you, number one, is disturbing. But number two, shows you what an integral part I play in your life. To
stand up against the over drinking.
Yes, that at least there's somebody in your life that says you don't need to consume so much all the goddamn time. It's not normal. It's uniquely American and it must end.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Welcome. You're welcome. Okay. I would like to welcome everybody. Boy, we're worked up on that intro.
You were worked up on that intro.
What about you and the personal space invaders?
Oh, no.
You went on for 10 minutes. Yours was 10 minutes long. Mine was 5, Missy.
I know. The personal space invading, it makes me crazy.
Okay. I would like to welcome everybody to I've Had It Podcast. It is a place where we come to air petty grievances with each other, with others out into the world, and sometimes with the listener.
That's right.
So I'm Jennifer.
I'm Angie.
We call her Pumps, and she is the star of our show. Kylie is here with us today. Richard is here with us today. And we have an in-studio guest.
Which is so exciting.
So listener, for those of you that don't know, I am an interior designer when I'm not the co-star to the main star of I've Had It Podcast.
The supporting star.
The supporting star. I'm a high-end interior designer, and I work with a gentleman named Kyle Bunting who makes these fabulous cowhide rugs. And when you hear cowhide, listener, don't think country and western, because that's not what this is. For those of you that watch our TikToks and Instagrams and YouTube, you can see the blue wallpaper wall behind us. That is all cowhide made for us by Kyle Bunting. And I have been doing business with Kyle for over 10 years, and he has come up to Oklahoma City to do some business with me and to be a guest on our podcast.
We snagged him to do it. We need a male perspective.
So let's get Kyle in here. Kyle,
Yes, ma'am.
welcome
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
to Oklahoma City,
My pleasure.
to I've Had It podcast. So why don't you tell us, you make these rugs and you sell them all over the world.
Correct.
Can you tell the listener, are there any A-list celebs that you can kiss and tell where it's been public?
Absolutely not.
None?
Nope. I've done work for Jen Welch.
That is a D-lister.
That is as far as it's going to go.
Okay, what about
No, she's not. She's a
I
C-lister.
tease her.
Come on.
At least a C-lister.
at least a
Absolutely.
C minus?
No, you know how it is. I mean, that's kind of part of how this thing works.
What about, didn't you do some for like a bougie retail store in Paris?
No, I did do something that is public. It was a stunt rug.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah. I made the company was on the Kardashians about a decade ago.
okay.
And the producers called and said, hey, we got this idea. We'd like to have this domestic disaster. And our idea is one of the girls drops like a bowl of pasta on the Kyle Bunting carpet and Chris freaks out.
Right.
And this whole thing. And they're like, but we don't want to destroy the rug. So what do you think we should do? So we made a stunt rug. And it's like a small version of the same carpet, and they, closed up on it and they dumped the pasta on it. And, we got a bunch of notoriety from it. So I have made carpets for the Kardashians.
Okay, there you go.
I could talk about that one, but that's
Oh,
as far as you
And
gotta
I
get
have a
me.
famous one because I've seen it in the person's house.
Who?
The Flaming Lips.
Yes.
The chairs you've done for the Flaming Lips. I've seen those in person. They're amazing. That's when I first saw your work because I thought, oh my God, this is nuts.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we did we did a carpet for Elton John. That was my big one.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that
Did you
was
get to meet
published,
him?
So I can no, I never get to meet these people.
Oh, that's a shame.
But that's okay, but all in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kyle and I work in an industry that is basically comprised of women and gay men.
Right.
You think?
Totally.
Yeah.
And Kyle
For sure.
is a good-looking guy, lives in Austin, Texas, travels all over the country and Europe. And Kyle, I have to tell you, so a lot of my friends, because they hear me say Kyle Bunting, let's do a Kyle Bunting rug here, Kyle Bunting wallpaper there. So they Google you or they get on your Instagram and they say, does Kyle have a boyfriend? He's so cute.
Sure. Right. Yeah, never heard that before. That's a new one. Yeah, that happens all the time. I think that's just part of the design business. If you're reasonably manicured,
Right.
Right.
wake up, maybe take care of yourself a little bit.
Right.
Little reverse stereotype, maybe.
Right.
Straight guy think he's a
Pumps?
gay guy.
Yeah.
I thought Pumps was gay.
But I like, even when we first went to dinner, I just assumed you were gay. I never asked, but I just assumed. So we're at dinner, you're manicured, you're groomed well, cute outfit, good hair, all of that. So I'm thinking 100%. So then you start talking about your kids. I was like, oh, that's so cool. He adopted kids, great. Da, 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 da. And then it wasn't until later in the evening. And I think I leaned over to Jennifer, like dessert was coming. And I was like, so Kyle's not gay? She was like, no, Kyle's not gay. And I was like, oh, well, I thought he was, but I mean, you thought I was gay.
Does
so.
this benefit you out in the dating world? Listener, Kyle is divorced, single, dad.
Yeah.
Do you think it makes you more approachable to a woman?
Well, it definitely makes me more approachable to a man. I mean,
No doubt about that.
that's like all the time. Like, hey, fellas, it's cool. Thank you.
Right.
I don't know. I think there might be something to that. I think it might be more about the business that we're in.
Right.
Like you have something that women are generally interested in.
Right.
Design and something you can relate to.
Right.
And so I think that's useful. It's never hurt
Right.
to be a designer.
Right.
Nobody ever said, God, could you be a fireman or like a contractor or something masculine? I'm like, I just do design. So
Yeah.
I think it works.
Josh Welch, who is a friend of yours,
Sure.
is
I love Josh Welch.
total metrosexual. So he gets a lot, especially when we were on the TV show, he'll get this. I'm
Sure.
getting a gay vibe from Josh. And I personally like a more manicured man that likes to go shopping with me. I mean, Josh and I
love to go shopping.
love to
Yeah.
go shopping. Pumps is a terrible companion for me.
to shop.
Let's get on to Kyle thinking you were gay. I think this is,
Well, I want to talk. I mean, I'm trying to not wave the gay card, but I want to talk about shopping.
So you say you're not gay, but you do like to shop.
Well, it's kind of like the funny thing. Like, I mean, you're these are like interesting stereotypes, right?
Right.
Like that we carry, and we think we've shed them all, but that's kind of like a little under the radar one. Because for me, it's I like to shop because I like to see what's happening in design and
Right.
fashion and what's forward.
Right.
And I'm touching textiles and fabrics,
Yes.
and thinking about where it comes from.
Yes.
And that's kind of part of the game, that we're in.
Right.
You need to know these things and be
I
in
agree.
front of it.
I agree.
And it just happens to be, nice to buy pretty things too.
I know. I
Yeah,
love.
I am. I'm addicted to buying bags for the
like
people I
man
date.
purses.
Kyle
No,
recently.
the women. The relationships that I'm in,
They get great gifts.
I'm real good. You
Oh, yeah, you get great
bags,
gift
You get
givers.
all sorts of
Great
great stuff.
Listener and Pumps and Kylie, Kyle sent me a Christmas gift, and I am very difficult to shop for because I make my own money and I buy what I want when I want to, and I don't have to ask anybody for permission.
Right.
If I want something, I can go buy it. And so Kyle sends me this gift, and I'm like, oh, that poor soul. I open it up, and it is this fabulous Alexander McQueen clutch that is, 12 out of 10. I called him, and I'm like, it takes a lot for me to be effusive over a
Right.
gift. I was like, Kyle, I am genuinely telling you, you crushed it. You knocked it out of the ballpark. You did. Even Josh was like, he nailed it. Like, that is a great gift.
Yeah, it didn't hurt that it had brass knuckles on it, so you could take care of people.
It does have brass knuckles like that you can attach your hand
Oh,
to.
that's cool.
And so it is a nice little thing. Like if we were just talking about personal space invaders before you got in here, and that's a great, we should get you one of these clutches, Pumps, because you could use that.
They just knocked the personal space invader completely out.
Just knock them out. Kyle, I want to move on to this whole, Pumps is single, you're single, and this whole post-divorce dating world. It seems to focus on women. And it seems like, and maybe it's just because I'm a woman and that's what shows up in my algorithm. But as a man out there in the wilderness, a Gen Xer,
Okay.
walk us through your dating journey post-divorce and what that has been like for a man that often is confused with a gay man. Good looking, works in the design world, great gift giver,
Sure.
deep in the heart of Texas. Tell us what this looks like.
Yeah. So like, you can, online dating is kind of interesting because you can just put, I'm straight,
Right.
believe it or not.
Right out of the box.
and,
Right.
And try to clear the deck. But, I think that, people that have been divorced, it's complicated.
Right.
You meet people and there's children and then there's jobs and just all sorts of strange stuff and blending things.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of crazy in the field.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy. And I think we talked about this, you and I once, about like social media. And I think it kind of warps perspectives.
Yeah.
It does weird things to what would otherwise be like normal stuff.
Right.
When you're in the 7th grade, you're like, I'll see you after lunch.
Right.
And, you see them after lunch. But, somebody swipes right if you're online dating and they're like, he hasn't, swiped right like I did. And you get all anxious and you wait on these things. And I think, there's a lot of people that get a little lost in it all.
Have you ever bumped into people on an online dating app?
I have. So I went on Bumble, and you have these interesting things. You're running into profiles of people, and you'd be like, oh, that's somebody I know. Oh, she's a friend of mine. All right. And you're like, no big deal, right?
Right.
And then you have, oh, she works for me. Oh God, that's, so-and-so down the hall.
Right.
Okay. No, but there she is. And then you're like, oh, I went out with her. Hope she finds somebody. Right? And then you're kind of like, oh, there's, God, I dated her for a couple of months. Wow. And she dumped me. Shit.
Right.
I
Right.
think I should try to do that again and see what happens. And then there's like, the mother load of emotional reaction,
Okay.
which is bumping into your ex-wife.
So walk us through this. You're swiping through Bumble.
Yeah.
And so what do? Like one direction is a yes, one direction is a no, and you're swiping, and then pops up your ex-wife.
I remember it was one night I was in a hotel or something, and I was just like, well, why not
Might
take
as
a look?
well.
I mean, maybe somebody will say, I'm amazing. I love guys in the design business. I'm looking to move to Austin, Texas. I mean, I was hoping for everything.
I'm a great lay.
Yeah, like, I'm just, I cook,
Right.
I'll do what you say. I mean, I don't know, whatever you want it to be, right? And I'm swiping along, and then, boom, there's my ex-wife. Which was, running into your ex online is kind of like a big one. But it was kind of funny because, that's inevitable, right?
Right.
People are just going to be back in looking for someone. But to see your ex is an emotional experience you can't truly describe that people can relate to. But I was in the profile.
You were in the profile
which
photo?
was super weird, right? Like I was in it.
Like a couple's photo?
I remember going, oh, damn, there she is. And I started looking at the pictures, and I'm like, there I am. And it's like my hand coming around her hip or like on her shoulder. It was like I was cut out of every single one of them.
Okay, wait, you were cropped, but your hand was in it.
All of them. It was like the Addams Family, like the hand. I was like on a shoulder, or, you could see some fingers around a hip or something.
Oh, that is great.
But I'll never forget it because it was like, oh, and then it's like anything when you step back and you stop and you go, okay, I kind of look at this, and you read it.
Right.
And it perfectly summarized my ex, her description.
Okay, that was my next question. Was the summary accurate?
Yeah, the summary was just dead on. It said, and I'll never forget it, it said, not for the faint of heart.
Wow.
Got nothing else to say.
So, Post, do you remember when our show launched and Kyle was so sweet and he was like, hey, I'm going to come up to Oklahoma City. I'm going to get a big table, invite whoever you want to. I'm going to take you and your friends to dinner. And we found a restaurant that had the TV so that we could all watch it. And so, Kyle, I'm going to let you take the story from here. Tell the listener what happened.
I'm pretty comfortable at stuff like this, but now I'm feeling a little awkward. So here's my version of the story.
Okay.
So we're having this lovely dinner, just like Jen described. And Jen had a single friend who either she wanted me to meet very casually. I'm not trying to set you up, just maybe you'll like her.
Right.
I make space at the table. And I'm like, hey, sit next to me, how are you? And, just kind of make conversation. And then I'm like, hey, so are you hungry? Would you like something to eat? And she goes, oh, God, that's so nice. Now, mind you, it's like 10, right? Or it's 10 o'clock and there's been a reasonable amount of wine.
Right.
And she's like, oh, that's so nice. That'd be great. Let me order something real quick.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, of course, please do. And so the waiter comes over and she, whispers something to him for dinner. And then about 15 minutes later, she gets up and says, God, well, hey, thank you. Some kind of single mom thing, like the babysitter, my kids, the meter. I mean, there was just some kind of
Got to wash my hair.
some kind of dumb excuse. So, like, I got to go. But it was lovely to meet you because there was, like we were talking about earlier, there was, it's not here.
No
right?
spark, yeah.
I wasn't looking for that, but point being is she gets up to leave and I look over and I watch her leave and I look over we're in this private dining room and there's this like little credenza. And on the corner of the credenza is this massive to-go bag. Like with like styrofoam boxes popping out of the top, like where you can't pinch the handles,
Yeah. Right,
and they have to kind of tape it together, and you end up hugging it,
Yeah.
and she picks it up and she just rolls out of the restaurant
Thanks,
with
Kyle.
a massive box. And I remember the waiter. I look at him and he just kind of goes,
Sorry, dude.
yeah, and he gave me like that, I'm so sorry, dude, like puppy dog eyes kind of thing. And then when he brings me the check, I'm like, you got to tell me, like, what's the damage on there? And he goes, man, I never seen something like that.
So she
there was
ordered
like sides and dessert and
T-bone
appetizers.
steak.
It was like a porterhouse. I mean, I was like, what? So, but yeah, that was.
Sorry.
No, I'm not sorry. I always kind of laugh with you. Like, I ain't had it with a lot of stuff, right?
Right.
I'm generally real positive. And even something like that, I mean, I guess I should have had it with it. But I look at things like that
story.
as like great stories and
Great
experience. It was worth it in every way
Right.
because you kind of grow.
Right.
When things are hard, you get better, right?
Kyle, we cannot thank you enough for joining us and giving us a male perspective on
Yes.
things.
My
and
pleasure.
I mean, not the gay male perspective.
The straight male.
The gayish straight male perspective on things.
Absolutely. It's an honor. Look, I adore you both. And thank you. My pleasure.
Listener, you can find Kyle Bunting at Kyle Bunting on Instagram and at kylebunting.com. And again, this delicious wallpaper behind us, this is the man who makes it all.
I did that. Thanks,
He
Jen.
did that. All right. Please like us, subscribe, rate, review, do all of those things. And Pumps, tell the listener when we're going to see them.
We will see you next Tuesday,
Or
next Thursday. And either way, it's cunt.